What would it be, Ryan the Great? And today we are talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, guys. They have a Week 7 matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. And so we will be breaking this all down. And not really too much to say. Obviously, hope the Eagles win this one. That'll make them 5-2 on the year. And let's just get right into it. Before we get right into it, guys, make sure you guys subscribe with your post notifications on. Go subscribe to my brother in there vlogs. Make sure you guys go subscribe to my second channel at Ryan the Cod Great. Make sure you guys go follow me on X at Ryan the Great RTG. Make sure you guys go follow me on TikTok at Ryan the Great RTG. Make sure you guys go listen to the latest edition of the CR7 podcast. And make sure you guys go follow me on Twitter at Ryan the Great Podcast. And now for you, ladies and gentlemen, let's run the video. Let's roll that intro.
Hey, come on, Stotty. Stop! 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 Red flare! First pitch! Bring him in! Yeah! Oh, damn.
Alright, let's run the video. Also, made a bit of mistake in the intro. It's Week 8, not Week 7. It's my fault. Anyway, let's starting off with the Eagles, their offense, and their quarterback, Jalen Hurts. So let's do this thing where we just don't make any mistakes. That would be very nice, not turning the football over. It was smooth sailing last week when that happened, and we won by 21 points. So let's do that thing. I kind of like it. I also kind of like the thing where we throw the ball to A.J. Brown. For a few times, so that's very nice. But don't overthrow it. Don't give it to him too much because that leads to turnovers. But we gave it to him a lot last week for the majority of the time. I like it when we do that. Let's continue. Hurts had I think a plus 100 rate last week against the New York Giants. I'm still coughing when I talk for a considerable amount, but it is what it is. But he did have a plus 100 rate. Now, the Bengals had a good week in the secondary. They are only averaging 6.4 yards per attempt on a quarterback. Last week, Jalen Hurts had over 10 yards per attempt. So that's something to watch out for this year. And I am interested to see how many explosive plays we run, knowing that the Bengals are only giving up 6.4 yards attempt on passes. Now, going on to our running back, Saquon Barkley. I like this thing where we give the ball to Saquon Barkley. It feels like, we win and we do well and we get up the field when we give the ball to Saquon Barkley. This stuff is very nice. We're second in the rushing yards per game this year, and the Bengals are 21st in rushing yards allowed. So that just shows that Barkley should be getting the ball a decent amount, and he's doing a great job running the football. I think he's the second best back in football, arguably the first. I think Derrick Henry's probably the best running back right now. Sorry once again. The Bengals, they do a decent job of defending the run to the outside. They didn't do that. They did decent against Nick Chubb last week. Not that great. I think they gave up 3.9 yards per carry and a touchdown. B.J. Hill hasn't made much of a run presence this year, but I do expect Saquon to have a lot better of a game than a returning Nick Chubb, who had a gruesome injury last year. So I expect us to pick up a decent amount on the ground. Now moving on to our wide receivers, A.J. Brown starting off. So when we throw, let's get it to him, please, because that would be nice to see on the stats wise. I've said it before and I'll say it again. A.J. Brown, the best one-on-one wide receiver in football, and the stats prove me right. Stats don't lie. I believe the Bengals, they will be filling the box this week, kind of just based off what the stats say. They're giving up a lot of rushing yards per game, and the fact that Saquon Barkley played so well against the Giants last week, I think they will be stacking the box, which is going to create more one-on-one coverage opportunities for A.J. Brown, and we got to get the football to him. Moving on to Devontae Smith. Just a catch for positive gain would do a lot better than what he did last week. I think the Eagles will throw a little bit more this week because I think the game will be closer. So hopefully he will be able to do what he does best. He gets open, he runs them routes right. One of the best route runners in the NFL. You could argue and say he's the best second best wide receiver, or the best number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. People like to throw him in that argument. And dominate on those one-on-one coverage plays, just like A.J. Brown. I don't expect Dotson to do much, but then again, I never do. I never really expect anything from these third wide receivers, unless we somehow trade for Cooper Kupp, but it looks like we're out of those sweepstakes, and I feel like everybody is. Ever since the Rams beat the Vikings. Now moving on to our tight end. Being Calcaterra this week, Goddard's obviously out. I do expect the Bengals to fill the box, so it's going to be pretty much the same thing with Calcaterra was able to do last week. That's take Burns off the edge. give him a bit of a chip block. I expect him to do the same thing with Hendrickson, make him restart, and then get on the second level and try to help Saquon Barkley by taking out those linebackers. Moving on to our offensive line, I'm only concerned if Fred Johnson has to guard Trey Hendrickson, who does have 7 sacks on the year and is one of the fastest guys off the line of scrimmage. Fred Johnson, a lot better of a run blocker than pass blocker. So you're not going to want to really see Hendrickson off the edge against Fred Johnson. We're probably going to need someone in the backfield to block him because of the fact that he has 7 sacks on the year, and he's done such a great job there. So, Hurts is going to have to not walk into sacks this week, something that he has done this season. But for some reason, that's not being fixed, and I really don't know why. But anyway, moving on to our defense and our defensive line. Historically, the Bengals' offensive line is pretty bad. Now, this year, they haven't been terrible, but they normally are pretty bad. They gave up 3 sacks last week to the Browns. Now, I don't care if they have Myles Garrett or really anybody. The Browns, that's just not that good. So the fact that they gave up 3 sacks to the Browns does tell you something. Our defensive ends are gonna have to have a good week, because I do believe they will be double teaming Jalen Carter no matter who is having a good game. They're not gonna let Jalen Carter beat them, and that's really what all the teams have been doing this season, especially the Atlanta Falcons and others. And sometimes the Eagles' defensive ends just do a bad job. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen Josh Sweat. You've seen Brandon Graham, Nolan Smith, and others just not do a good job, just not have good weeks. So that could happen this week. The Bengals might be bargaining on that. And honestly, I would bargain on that myself. And honestly, Jordan Davis is no threat to the pass. And I always like to hate on him. Well, I don't like to hate on him. It's warranted in my opinion. But nonetheless, the Bengals getting onto the run game. They don't run the ball much. But that doesn't mean the Eagles aren't giving up 4.9 yards a carry this season. So it is something to be concerned about. Jordan Davis better be running extra laps and gut check, because I got a bad feeling the Bengals are going to be running the football this week, and the Eagles are not going to expect it. Anyway, moving on to our linebackers. Now, if Nakobe Dean, I hope he stayed awake in the film room this week. If he learned that maybe he should go through gaps that are filled so he can go unblocked getting to the quarterback, maybe he can have a good week like he had last week, just if he stayed awake in the film room long enough. Because I don't know if he was asleep in the film room or if he just wasn't paying attention. Either one, he better have had that fixed this week. He had it fixed last week, evidently, but hopefully for this week's meetings, he got that fixed out. I hope Bond's okay. He did get hurt last week. Hopefully he can save us on the run, stop those explosive runs, because I got a bad feeling the Bengals are going to be running the football on us. And hopefully Nolan Smith realizes that he has hands, these things. And he can use them to get around the offensive line. He learned that he had hands last week. Now let's hope he remembers that he has them this week. Now moving on to our corners and safeties. Possibly no Higgins this week. It doesn't look like T. Higgins is going to be playing this week. A pretty late injury that we've heard about late Friday night. So that takes some of the pressure off Darius Slay, who has just not really been good over the past couple of weeks. He's been injured and whatnot. I would assume Mitchell is going to be on Jamar Chase this week, which is going to be his biggest test. But he has been great. He's been one of the best corners in the NFC, and my defensive rookie of the year thus far. So you definitely are going to be expecting him to have a decent game. Now, I'm not sure if Jamar Chase is going to be able to run some of those go routes that he has been able to run and get a few touchdowns off of, because of the fact that Quinyon Mitchell is so fast, and I really haven't seen any receiver this season get behind him. So that's going to be something to watch. And I wonder how many digs Jamar Chase is going to run, because the Eagles don't really do well defending the middle of the field, and Mitchell, once again, doesn't want anybody behind him, doesn't let anybody behind him, so it's going to be interesting to see if Jamar Chase is going to run a lot of dig routes this week. Something we sometimes see, but not so often. We typically see him in the slot running curls, and then on the X we see him, on screens, comeback screens, and typically flies and stuff like that. So interesting to see what kind of his route tree is going to be this week. And Vice is, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, number 80 on the Bengals. I really hope I'm saying that right. He's been good. He's probably going to be a slot threat this week. And hopefully DeJean does his job. This guy likes to get to the outside, likes to get outside the numbers. So hopefully DeJean is ready for that. Got to have good communication if we do run a zone defense. And the safeties, you got to play deep. I've seen too many Jamar Chase touchdowns where he's either gone deep and got a 50-yard 50-yard bomb, or he's took a screen against the Ravens 70 yards to the house. So the safety's got to play deep this week. We got to make sure that Jamar Chase is kept in check, and we got to stay deep. I'm not giving up these touchdowns this week, especially if there's no Higgins. Make sure there's safety help. Anyway, for the coaching, give the ball to Saquon. The stats say do it. I say do it, so let's do it. The pass for the Bengals is going to be the main focus, but the run game I think we'll be using. We have to be ready for it. Anyway, our bottom line, run the damn ball and be prepared for anything on defense. Having said all that, my final score prediction is Eagles 34, the Bengals 31. I think this will be a close game. I think the Bengals will be scoring a lot of points. The Bengals have been scoring a lot of points this year, just have not been able to close. Their defense has not looked too good. The Eagles' offense has looked decent over the last couple of weeks, and I expect the Eagles to continue feeding Saquon Barkley the football, which will lead in a few touchdowns, which leads to a victory. That'll do it for this video, guys. Make sure you guys subscribe with your post notifications on. Go subscribe to my brother Linda Great Blogs. Make sure you guys go subscribe to my second channel at Ryan the God Great. Make sure you guys go follow me on X at Ryan the Great RTG. Make sure you guys go follow me on TikTok at Ryan the Great RTG. Make sure you guys go listen to the latest edition of the CR7 podcast. And make sure you guys go follow me on Twitch at Ryan the Great Podcast. And as always, Ryan the Great out. Peace.